You're listening to the Today's Eden podcast, episode 23. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey guys, thank you for listening to the Today's Eden podcast. So I have been a longtime fan of the Model Health Show podcast hosted by Shawn Stevenson. But one episode in particular really stood out to me, and it was one called 5 Keys to an Amazing Relationship. And I linked it in the show notes. But in that episode, Shawn has his wife Ann on, and they get real about their marriage and how it was able to thrive. And it was so good that I had to have her on to share all this good knowledge and experience on what it takes to make a marriage great. So in this episode, we talk about Tony Robbins' 6 core human needs and how implementing their learnings from him brought clarity into their marriage, and little things like how she overcame irritations, learned to communicate more productively, how they took their differences and found a way to make it work together. We also talk about why Ann is such a firm believer in taking care of herself first and how it impacts herself and her family, and how she creates the beautiful family atmosphere that they have in their home of freedom, fun, and realness without being fake. You guys, this episode is gold, and there are so many nuggets of wisdom that we can walk away with for ourselves, our marriage, our family, and all the in-between. So I'm so grateful for her getting real with us so we can learn from her journey and experiences. Let's get to the episode with Ann Stevenson. So I'm so excited to have Ann Stevenson on because you and your family are just so much fun. And I say that like I know you guys or something, but from watching you on Instagram and then hearing you and your husband talk about marriage and life, I just had to have you on. So
oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't know it was that entertaining. I keep getting that a lot. It's just you press play and they won't stop. So it's pretty easy for me.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about life and tell us a little bit about kind of where you guys are at, what's going on.
So I guess, I'm Ann Stevenson, and I work with my husband, Shawn Stevenson. We have a podcast, the Model Health Show. And so, working together in health and fitness space. And we have 3 kids. 2 of them are my step kids, but I don't even like that term. They're just my kids. I've known them for a really long time. 21, 16, and then we have our son who's 5. And so, with the dynamic, we live with our 2 boys, and the 21-year-old, she's a girl and she stays with her mom. So so that's like the little dynamic with us, and, just living life.
So how did you guys, I want to know how you, well, I know, but I want you to share how you guys met.
So I guess a little bit how we met. We went to the same university here in St. Louis, University of Missouri St. Louis, and I was getting ready to go on a adventures in Miami with my girlfriends, as we call those, Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Epic, if anybody's ever been. It's just one of those really crazy times. As you know, being young, 21, you have to do it. So once in your lifetime. And so I was just going to the gym just to get, a little bit, my belly flat, that whole 9. And I saw him at the gym and he was training somebody. And the funny part was, and later on when we talked about, like each other's background, we found out that we always hung out in the same places, but we just never saw each other. Wow. Like he was at the same university with me for, I think, 4 years, and we just had never crossed paths. So it's just really cool, because I think if we had sooner, we most definitely would not be together. Yeah. And so I saw him at the gym, and it was love at first sight, in my opinion, because I was like, I wanted him to train me. That's what I told my friend. And we just kind of giggled. And later on, as time went by, I just would go to the gym just in case he was there,
Yeah.
And finally, it's just kind of like one of those in the movies. It actually happened. I dropped my headset and he picked it up, and that's what we started a conversation, and it was in one of those awkward machine, with the legs open.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with the closing legs, and it's very awkward. And asked me my name, and I told her my name, and the next question was, where are you from? And at that time, it was really a lot of African Americans, like in St. Louis where I live. Most of them think I'm just, I'm African American. And so for him to ask that question, I was like, oh, he must be around more foreign people.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'm from Kenya, and we just really hit it off. And we just started dating, immediately. And of course, as he tells the story, I just stopped working out, which he thought like I was a very active, fit person, which is a complete lie. He says I was fronting, but in my defense, I did not say that ever in life. I just, happened to be, I had a purpose, as most women do, like, when you have going to the beach in a couple of months. And that really hit off. I mean, of course, we had a couple of health situations that on my end that kind of brought us much closer, which in turn, took it with us, venturing out into raw foods and cleansing our bodies. So we started really, just kind of from the regular things that most couples do, movies and, eating and just movies, going out to eat, to like staying at home, reading books, cleansing, and connecting more on that level. And next thing you know, and he's eating raw foods like for 3 years straight, and slowly teaching classes. And I would be the one kind of in the back scene, making all the food preps and just there, the little quiet mouse behind him. And that's kind of how it really took off with that, when just slowly we started working together. And it was very, very difficult working together initially. But, we really stuck it through. And I think because we both had the same vision, because we spent a lot of time really connecting on what we really wanted. And we just saw a bigger vision on how we wanted people to feel and how we wanted them to connect with each other and be happy. And from the clients that he would have and really having that one-on-one, it just really strengthened that. So no matter how big our conflicts might have been, that always kind of held us together, with that sense. And slowly just been building together, and to the point now where we have, the podcast and him having a book and all these things. So it's just been an awesome journey.
Yeah. And so the real question is, did you drop your headphones on purpose, or was it really an accident?
I wish. And that's so fun. No, it was not on purpose. It just so happened, and it's just like as normal girls, it's kind of like you are interested, but when the actor is so not interested, he's not even there.
Yeah.
I had that attitude, like, who are you? Like, even though deep down I was like, oh my gosh, and the funny part was, it was like, he always, if most people who've ever watched the show, and you've seen Sean, like, always has his hat down. And so I didn't know for 2 weeks us dating that his eyes were even a different color, because he always had it. And one day I'm like, are you mixed? And he's like, yeah, what do you think? And I'm like, I just thought you were just very light, So he's always very incognito at the gym. Like, he just never really wanted, like, eye contact was not his thing. So, we both are kind of playing like we're too good for each other, the beginning stages. So
that's so funny. So you and Sean have implemented the teachings of Tony Robbins, his 6 needs, into your guys' marriage. So I wanted to talk about those first and kind of what they are and how they benefited you guys.
So according to Tony Robbins, he talks about every human has these 6 human needs that, in order to thrive, in order to, like living the best life that they possibly, can have. So the 6 human needs being, the first one is certainty. And I guess it could be in a hierarchy type of way. That's the way I picture it in my head anyways. Certainty. And that's, of course, wanting always to have certainty in everything that is going on in your life,
Mm-hmm.
like, with the bills being paid, like, this amount of money is coming in, and that gives you comfort and security. And then uncertainty slash variety, and variety, that meaning, we sometimes want to experience some excitement, some surprises. And so in life, we need that variety so that we can feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he always gives that example of, watching the same movie. Like, you might have waited like a year to watch it again because you know that it's good, but at the same time, it's kind of like, you those unexpected surprises while you're watching it, but you still know you want it, you want to watch it.
Yeah.
So I think that what he says is, we like good surprises, only surprises that we like.
Right.
We don't like, I think he calls them problems. When it's surprises that we don't like, we call them problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then significance, and that's just that need to be significant. And it can be, positive and negative. If say, like gossiping, trying to, and even sometimes I see people trying to be like humble, but yet want to, let's say you want to post it on social media. Like, yes, I gave this homeless person $10, just to show that significance, like, you're important. But also I think significance can be in a good way, I think, as well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then the next one is love. And that's just self-explanatory. It's just the need for connection, the need to be loved and to receive love. That's one of my favorite. And then the next one is growth. Growth meaning, and the first four needs, certainty, uncertainty, significance, and love. Those, everybody meets them in any type of way. It can be in a positive way, in a negative way, but we find ways to meet those four needs. But these last two needs, he says, those are the ones that people, you kind of have to strive for and recognize. And I think it's a little bit of evolving as human beings. And that's, the need of growth. And with the need of growth, that is, you feel that there is more that I have to do and to learn. And I think most people, it's like, with learning, when they feel that they're learning, they feel that the ceiling has been, taken off, and they can do more. And then the last one being contribution meaning that you wanting to better this place that you live in, if it's in your community, even from family all the way to community, to the world, feeling like there's something that I have to do, not just thinking about it, but like actively, it's like part of your life, and I live with a person who's like that. So I really, I get it, where it's just everything that they do, they're constantly thinking on how this betters the whole, the planet as a whole, and how when they live this planet, how they would have made the biggest impact.
Yeah. So were you guys in a place of searching for growth in your marriage, or was this just kind of something you stumbled upon and decided to, like, hey, this sounds interesting, we want to try this out and see how it fits in our marriage? Or like, what brought you guys to getting involved or like researching more into Tony Robbins' 6 needs and exploring that?
I think with a lot of things in life, for me, for the most part, a lot of stuff comes from, I guess, from pain and frustration. When I want to make a change in my life. And same thing with him too, or just dissatisfaction and wanting to do something different. I think at that time, even though, like I was speaking earlier, where we had connected in such a deeper level on, like, from the raw foods and health and wellness and, just that field. And we would sit there and talk for hours. We didn't even like have TV, nothing like that. Like, I think we turned off the cable, like we would just really, we were going on the hippie side of things for sure. But there was such a distance between us. I was in a different spiritual growth than he was. And so we had such a big distance, to the point where, like, it was irritating. Like, a lot of things were irritating for us. And And so that kind of like made it really hard to live with. It was kind of like we loved each other, but we really didn't like each other.
Yeah.
He was not my best friend. He wasn't, I wasn't honest with him. Or even if we had an argument or a disagreement, I wasn't being open fully to, really expressing how I truly feel. Or he would want to, oh my gosh, the cool thing, and I have to, on my part, I do commend him for this. And he's the one who really kind of drove us to even getting this program, the whole nine, was he's always been wanting to improve on us, improve on our well-being, our relationship, to deepen it. And I grew up in Kenya where we really didn't talk about our feelings. I did not want to express it. I thought it was weird. And he would want to say, okay, we need to just talk about us. And I'm like, everything is fine. Why do we need to talk? And that would just, even though I didn't realize deep down, I had issues within myself that we hadn't discussed. And I think we had been married, maybe 3 years at that time. And even though we were great at what we were doing and trying to help people inside our house, we were separate, even though we had a common goal. And so I think it was still cool, the fact that we had that love between us. That, I think, pushed us through a lot of things. And his persistence in making sure that, we pushed through. Because I think if it was just for me, we would have been like kind of stagnant. Because I had the personality of, you okay? I'm okay. All right. Right.
Yeah.
And I will act like I'm fine. I will laugh, and everything will be fine. But if there was a problem I had with him, I wouldn't really truly, talk it out. So, and of course, another part, knowing why we needed something, was we would have an argument and we're arguing for like 2 straight hours. Like we had nothing to do, like we just, and if you ask me to this day, and I know you probably have experienced that too, it's just like, what were we even arguing about?
Right, yeah.
Like, what was even the topic? And so we had stumbled upon Tony Robbins' like old teachings, like, Awaken the Giant Within. And we always knew like his stuff was just awesome anyways. And so we just, we just decided to get the program and go through it.
Yeah.
And again, that was the one thing, because he would do a lot of things during our relationship, my husband, where, let's say he was wanting to go to this Raw Spirit Fest, in Arizona. And like, I'm just like, I don't want to, like I'm thinking of money. I'm thinking of all these other factors, but he just wants to go there to connect and learn. And I'm just like, So that was just one small thing. So a lot of things that he would try and bring, it was kind of like he would pull me along. But this was the first thing that he brought to the table, was just like, I was really interested in it, because I've always liked Tony Robbins anyways. So when we would do the sessions and watch the videos and stuff, it was just like, this is awesome. And we would look at each other. This one part of the video in one of the, I think it's called Love and Passion, the program that he has. And the couple were being, interviewed back and forth, and they weren't in the midst of, they were about to get a divorce. After that, after leaving that event, they were going to have a divorce. And they talked about how, like, when the wife would be in the kitchen and the husband would come in the house, and how she would just cringe, like, like, ugh. And same thing, like when the husband was coming in the house and he would talk, and it's just like, I just didn't want to be there. And I looked at Sean, and Sean looked at me, and he was just like, oh my God. And we just started talking about it. And come to find out, I used to remember I would turn into our street driving home, and I would just get so low, like, oh my gosh, I have to come home. And he would say the same thing, where, he would be in his office working, and I would just open the door, and he's just like, here we go again, and that's just not the way to live,
Yeah.
So that's where it all came from.
Yeah, and that's like common. I feel like a lot of the times the arguments that we have, it's about like who left the cheese open,
Right.
but then it like turns into this 2 hour long conversation, and it really was because like 3 weeks ago, you know, somebody said this and they didn't respond the way that we needed to. And yeah, so then it ends up really not being about the cheese, but something else.
Oh my gosh, it is so true. It's so true. And I think because I think as women, we just hold in so much. And I don't know, it's just, and I know there are other women who kind of like, they'll just let you know how it is right then and there. But most of us, we kind of suppress it. And I think also guys suppress it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's not to like hurt our feelings, or, that's just kind of the way they were brought up. And so when the two meet, it's just like so much clashing. And it's a lot of like garbage in the surface that, you might argue about. And I think one of the episodes that Sean talked about on his podcast, when he was talking about me leaving the bags open, like the Ziploc bags, and, all these things with the protein bag, and he would get so mad and frustrated. And I'm not even trying to do it. And then, or it's sending me to the store and I have my grocery list. I mean, I've been doing this for years. At this point, it's just hilarious. And he will send me, he just wants this particular thing on the list, and I come back from Whole Foods and I don't have it. And in my head, I'm just wanting not to forget so much because it created so much conflict. I don't want to be a problem, to him, and I end up being the biggest problem because I forgot again. But for him, the way he saw it was more of, he's not significant enough. I'm not really thinking about him enough, to remember. And so it's just this huge conflict that would happen, but it is kind of tough.
So I'm curious if you could, if you don't mind sharing what your guys' top needs. So what I have learned from it is that you kind of like pick your either like top 2 or top 3 and then kind of compare them. So it kind of gives you insight into what each other needs, similar to like the 5 love languages idea. But
yes.
I was just wondering if you could share kind of your guys's and how the clarity that it brings to know each other's like top needs.
Oh, awesome. I think first of all, like when he does have a YouTube, for those listening, like a YouTube video where it's a TED talk where he just talks. It's like 22 minutes. It's really awesome talk that he did. Phenomenal. And he talks kind of fast because he only has 22 minutes, because when he talks, he can talk for like entire 12 hours. Right. Not kidding. I saw him live. It's really weird. But when you listen to him, you intuitively know, like you're just like, yep, that's me all the way. If you had to rank things from like 1, to 7, it's really easy to recognize off the bat, like what your top 2 are. And so that's what we did after going through one of the sessions. We found out like my top 2 needs were certainty and love, and his were love and growth. And we sat there and we talked for hours, Sean and I. It was just like, oh my gosh, everything just kind of made sense. Like it was like the hugest aha moment of our relationship, where learning, certainty for me, why it would cause conflict in our relationship. And it was very small. I had never spoke about it. Would be, say we're doing a raw food class and I have to spend like ridiculous amounts of money at Whole Foods, as you well know. I mean, and again, with our classes, we would do like 7-course meals. So we were like going hard with these classes, and yet we have these bills have to be paid. Right. And but on his end, he's just more, he's such a visionary. And to him, it's like, that is such small potatoes. Like, we got that. That's not going to be a big deal. Like, let's focus on these people. And I'm just like, no,
Yeah.
like, turn your face over here first. Then if we get this handled where I'm not feeling antsy and frustrated, like, sitting on needles, like, oh my gosh, we're trying to make it again this month, um, then I would be more supportive. But from his end, he didn't know that. He just felt, because he would just come to me and be like, babe, we have another class, next week. And I would just drop down like, ugh. And we would have a conflict. And from his standpoint, it was more on you not trying to support me. You don't see how important this is to me, to people, to the planet. He's just like so visionary, and I'm just seeming like, and of course, in his defense, in his case, he had been pulling me thus far in everything, like all these cool things that he wanted to do. And he just felt like he's pulling me, tagging me along. And so that was just a huge aha moment. So the moment that, and then of course it was great to have love as being our base, because we really truly cared about each other and wanted to be together. And that's the thing too, I think, with like most couples, anybody in a relationship, or if you want to be in a relationship, is if you're coming from a place of resolution, that place of heart-based understanding, I think that anything can be worked out, because there is an end goal. Like, when we get done with this, not only do I want to resolve it, but I really want to make it better than it was before. So when we were talking, we had that base of, we want to make this better, and we're going to keep trying time and time again. And so it took a lot of different conversations. But for Sean, for him, it was just like, he got it. Once he understood that certainty, once he has to sort of make sure my certainty needs are met, I would be good. I just took off, and just to show him that I'm your number one fan. I believe in you before anybody else. And I want you to crush it beyond anything else. Like, he would walk around and this was back in the day, like, and he would be like, I'm the top nutritionist in the nation. This is before podcasts, before anything, in front of my, in my mom's kitchen, talking to like 10 people, but I believed in him, and I knew what he had, that energy, that fire. And so to back him up, not only it's like allowing him to take risks. I'm right there with you as we take this risks. Mm-hmm. That really it just changed our whole relationship.
Yeah, I remember listening to you guys talking about that, because you guys did an episode together where you talk about kind of your marriage and how to make it great. And yeah. I remember after I listened to it, I sent the link of the episode to my husband, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And so then he listened to it, and then we had a date night later that week. Mm-hmm. And so then we literally sat there the whole night talking about what our needs might be. And that was like, we haven't even listened to the Tony Robbins YouTube, but now I definitely want to go listen to it to kind of like clarify what my top two are. Yes. But yeah, just even that alone, it was like, that makes sense.
Oh man, it makes me so happy. I get messages here and there about that podcast, and it's just so funny because he dragged me in the studio. Like, I really, I just was like, I don't think I have really anything to say. But once we started talking, I was like, yeah, like for sure. And I had no idea. And that's just like the best feedback ever. I love that you guys were able to, get the most out of that, because I'm a true believer that intimate relationships, like, those are the gateway in like transforming the world. Because in an intimate relationship, you guys get to like know each other, like your dark places, and being honest with each other during those places, and to come out of it, being stronger and challenging each other. And when you're able to do that, like, space is not even the limit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was it was pretty similar to when we found out what our 5 love languages were. Then it was like, oh, like it's like the cloud, like the sun comes out and everything is aligning and you're just like, this all makes sense now. Like I've been doing it this way. No wonder he thinks that I don't love him because, he doesn't receive it the same way. And so it was kind of very clarifying to figure out, okay, like that is his, like the motivation behind like what, like your more like your purpose, like doing that along with the love languages, I feel like it's just very like connecting and it makes things clearer. And so when I heard it, I was just like, my mind was just like blown and I was like, whoa, I thought the love languages was it. And then I was like, no, we have to do this.
There's more.
Yeah, there's more.
Now, you know what? And that's the thing, like when I hear people say like, and I just cringe when I hear people say like, marriage takes a lot of hard work and, and I'm like, it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say hard work. It's just kind of like, let's say like when a baby wants to start to walk, like, it's just like, okay, I fell, I'm going to get back up. Like, it's not like, dang, this is hard work. And then, you're discovering new things, like as you are walking and, in the world. And it's the same way with a relationship. It doesn't have to feel that way. And of course, it's a lot of time. I mean, tears, a heartbreak, like me breaking his heart and well, he hasn't broken my heart. I broke his heart, I was very cold hearted because I just would guard my feelings so much. A lot of tears, a lot of talking, a lot of hours of arguing. But, when you sing it, it's like all leading up to something. And it's like a continuous like unveiling of a beautiful flower. And it's just like, okay, I'm just gonna, let's see where this is gonna lead. Then it doesn't feel so heavy.
Yeah, that's a really good description of it. I love that example. So earlier you had said that you didn't really talk about your feelings with your family and stuff like that. And for us, we didn't really have the examples of marriage. Like, and I know that, and I think it was the same episode where you guys kind of talked about the same, so how do you find people to surround yourself with, when you don't have good marital examples in your family or like naturally around you?
I guess firstly, I would say, my husband, he's always been like a hopeless romantic. Like he's always had this idea of love doesn't have to be what others describe it. And thankfully I took on to that idea very quickly, just from seeing the lack of examples around me, with my parents, his parents, like everybody around me seems to have so much problems, it's to the point, like, I'd have some girlfriends where it was just like, I never want to get married. If that's what marriage is about, I don't want to have, it's just like when you have kids and then people around you, like, I don't ever want to deal with that. Like, that just looks like a mess,
Yeah.
And so that was the steer point, was just my husband having that strong belief. And once I started taking on that, we would have discussions about that, like, so how would we even go about doing this, and like even creating this idea, that seemingly is not there. So firstly was our standards, what I'm not going to tolerate, from others around me. I'm not going to be sitting there and entertaining, like, if you're going through whatever bad experience with, again, I have family, friends where they might be going through that experience, but I will give you tools. I even gave like my copy for the Love and Passion, Tony Robbins. I'll give you tools for it, to see how you can better the relationship. But I found that when I set my standards on like what I won't be around, people who are just negative, who do not want to grow. This is their idea because I don't want them to rain on my parade and being like, oh, you think you're so perfect. I mean, already though, people thought we were always strange. Anyways, we're eating raw foods. We're like, trying to, he's out here barefoot walking and, we were just always been a little bit on the left side anyways. But I just won't tolerate that energy around me too much. Not until, and I'll come back to this because it came full circle with that point. But this is my experience. I think everybody, it's totally different. And then the other thing was virtual coaches, finding couples, people that have that idea that I feel is the trueness of, a true thriving, passionate marriage that I see. Of course, one of them is Anthony, Tony Robbins, and Sage. They exemplify that, like, from their body language, from what they say. I love another one is I love Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. Just, from them taking care from their health, how they look at each other. And that's the thing I love about social media. And it's a lot of like crazy things out there that we see, we're comparing ourselves with. One of the things that I see a lot is you can easily call out BS. Like you can see like, okay, these people are just kind of faking it. Like, yeah, we've been able to, our BS meter, it is an all-time high when it comes to social media. Somebody can post a picture with their cute little family and you're just like, like you can kind of see what's real and what's not. Yeah. And that's what's really cool about, the age that we're living in. So even if it's like on my feed, if I'm on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, I would choose to put positive people on my feed. Like I took anybody that, if you're complaining about being single and miserable, or, your husband, those crazy posts you would see, just took them all off. I don't want to see them, and so that was the thing, was just kind of having virtual coaches around. And then lastly was, because my husband lived this and just always loves to attain higher ground with his spiritual development, his relationships, he naturally would attract people in that element as well. And so of course, then they have wives and, and friends and stuff like that. And so it just naturally ended up, if we were at events or something like that, I would meet these people that have really awesome, thriving relationships. I forgot to mention, I love Chalene Johnson.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She's hilarious. I love her relationship with her husband. It's super real. And so it's like good to see those on a regular basis, just to remind ourselves of what's possible. And so what we did after that was it was just kind of like mental notes. I'm not trying to create or have what they have. It's just taking small pieces on what I like and what I'm seeing. And then I create my own with our personality, what I actually want in my relationship with him. What do I see that looking like? And so we would have conversations about that. We would sit there and talk about like, what would be a perfect day for both of us, and which thankfully I'm able to live that today, where it's just, I wake up in the morning and he's making my coffee and then getting the kids ready for school. Then we take them to school, and then I get to work out with him. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. That's in his vision board. It's just a picture of me and him, working out. That's because you have to make it like really real to spend that time together. And so the more time we spend together, the better we're able to refine what this means for us. It's not really a showcase for anybody. It's just kind of, if anything, just a showcase for our kids, because I want to show them the best type of like having a relationship, a good one, what can come out of it. Mm-hmm. And so having the kids to to be an example for, of course, is a driving force for both of us, where, we make sure that we are on our A game. And, and sometimes I might not fancy him too much. But the funny thing is, even when I say that, it's been probably months when I even felt like that. And even if I did, like, he picks it up immediately and it's just like, okay, what's your problem? Like, let's talk about this. And it might be something small that he said maybe a couple of months ago. Again, like, we always are holding little things and not being completely open. And so that's kind of where I got my whole vision of my marriage, to this day. But one side note too is I want to come back from what I initially talked about with kind of shutting off negative people, like, with whatever. I did that for a while in the beginning. But as I progressed, I realized that I have to be the light for them. They might not be there yet, even if I'm like giving them all this information on, like bettering their life. They just are not there yet and they need me. So the good part was I was mentally strong enough. Like, I already have an idea where I'm going. I'm focused. I'm very solid. So now, even if I see this as somebody's complaining about it, it doesn't do anything to me. I just feel I can just, give them whatever advice at that point. I take it and, take it or leave it. It doesn't bother me. It's just like, I'm good. I'm happy anyways, in my life. But if I can be of any light and service to them, cool. But I think for me initially to kind of shut like the negative stuff off helped me to, to get a little bit more, because I can be, initially it was easily influenced, like, oh, this is so negative. Like, why even try? Like,
Yeah. I think we did the same thing too, though. Like, when we really started working on our marriage and realizing that, either we could do something and it could get better and we could get closer and be more connected because obviously something was missing, or we could do what everybody else was doing. And when we really thought about that, we're like, well, if we do what everybody else is doing, like they're not actually happy. So why would we want that? And so we kind of, stuck to that. You are the 5 most people that you spend the time, your most time around. And so we did that, and it was painful and it was awkward. And so then we kind of look at it as like a dartboard, like in the inner, like we have this tiny, small, like bullseye circle that, okay, like these are the couples that we admire and we know that we can trust them with our issues, or like to be real, or to, like they have the same marital goals in mind. And then, and then it kind of like goes out from that. Okay. Then like there's a little bit bigger group that, and then there's like the furthest out group where it's like, we want to still connect with them and we want to still be there, but yet like, we're not going to let them influence our decisions or, and I think that's the same as social media. Cause at first when I created Today's Eden, I really wanted it to be raw and real. And, I figured out really quickly, like I can't just pull my phone out in the middle of an argument and be like, look, we argued too, without pissing one of us off or something. But but then at the same time, it's like, well, like we've been working so hard at handling things a certain way to where on the outside, it does kind of always look like things are good, but that's because we're just learning how to work things out and handling it better. So it's like when we have conflict, we're not only exampling it well for our kids, but just for our marriage, that we're not just like slamming doors and blowing things up and walking off, that we're actually like engaging. And so, I don't know, but I don't know where I was going with that.
That was great. No, that was great. I got quite a few things off of that. And you are right. It is hurtful, initially kind of, trying to, if people don't understand what you're doing, it kind of seems like you're shutting them off. Right. And I have been there, and I totally get it. And I had to, I think after a while, it was maybe a couple years where it was just, I learned how to include them. Like you said, I call it, you have the inner circle, and then I call it the buffer zone. It's like this buffer zone out here where it's like, they cannot get that close in, but I acknowledge you. I'm here to help you in any way that I can. And because I'm not only doing this for me and my family, but if I can help anybody else, so be it. Like, I think that when we're happier people, we do much happier things, and like our kids are happier. It just spreads all around. So that's totally fine. And the thing is, though, with social media, I mean, yeah, like, we can't really like be posting like, okay, I have this sad face. Like, I might just not post that day if I'm like I'm not feeling it. I mean, because I guess that has been the platform. But the cool part is, even if you do whatever picture that is posted, I'm just a firm believer that, like, if you're feeling it, your body shows it, no matter what it is. It's an expression of you. If you're smiling, if you're really feeling it, shows, so I post when I'm I'll post it when I'm feeling cool. If these kids, hey, I'm not going to post when Braden, like, I put him in a corner, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I mean, I could, but what is that actually showing? And the cool part, he hasn't been in a corner in months, but if he was, it's just kind of like, again, it's just you're trying to spread positivity anyways, so that could also be that balance.
So how do you guys create that kind of tight-knit family atmosphere that you guys have? Because on your Instagram, y'all are always dancing. Somebody's dancing like constantly. We do that here, but I was like, dang, like you got everybody involved in, and you guys have awesome music choices, by the way. Like, I'm like, yes. But yeah, so how do you guys create that kind of tight knit? Because I mean, I've seen where it's all of you guys working out, or you guys are always around each other, and so how do you create that?
I guess the first thing is, and I love what my mom always says, is just kind of, you can't change the world you have to change yourself first. Everything just starts with you. So even prior to, with like the type of environment that I want for my family, everything stems from me and how I'm feeling and what's going on with me. So knowing that, and knowing that how I feel is affecting every single one of them, it is literally affecting my son in school right now, how I'm feeling. Because when he walks through this door, that energy, I might not say anything to him. He will feel it. He might not say anything, but it could be there. So I'm just a firm believer of taking care of me first, mentally taking care of myself. And then, of course, physically, because I feel the physical portion, streams into my mental well-being. So if I wake up and I'm just like on a go, 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 and I'm not being present, then that's the energy that my whole family is going to get to feel, because I don't have that time to just hang out just for a second, relax, and just see what's around me, like their goofiness or whatever, because I'm just on a go, 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 and they will be on a go, 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 or in their own little corners. So if I can fill myself up every day, and that's on, when you see us working out, because that's, if I take care of my health, then I am better for everybody else. They take care of their health, then they are better, and they can perform better in everything that they do. So everything is just streaming from me all the way down. So if we're working out, I'm working out to when you see me post on Instagram or whatever, on my mirror every day I'm posting. Yeah, it is great if fat loss is involved. Yeah, a couple of, weights, I can lift extra weight here and there. But my number one goal every day is to make sure my mind is right and having the energy to really take the day on. Because, when I come home, it is on until 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
And so to be my very best, and of course, working out helps that tremendously. having a morning routine in the morning, we get to meditate together. You know, the three of us, my little one and my husband, the three of us, we get to sit there and meditate, to just center, and meditation can be whatever, but it's just really being still, just taking 5-10 minutes, literally just 5 minutes some days, to just center yourself. Because when you center yourself, then you're able to focus on how your day is going to go. So how this relates to all this, you know, funness that's happening around is because I am in a content place. I am in a fun-filled place inside my heart. So it radiates out. And so even my kids, you know, my 16-year-old, which is, I'm so grateful for him, for he's just not that typical 16-year-old. You know how with the mood swings, he'll have them, but they're very far in between, where he understands how, like, if you're having some issue, like, you just can't come in the morning and just being like, morning, you know, and then try to, like, you know, go make your breakfast. Like, he would do that initially, and I'm like, I didn't go to sleep with you. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know, like, not taking for granted, I'm happy to see you. I hope you're happy to see me too, you know, and I always tell them, like, taking for granted, you only have 2 years with us, you know, just soaking it all up, being a kid and having fun. Like, if you're having an issue or whatever, and just being like, you know what, and just not feeling it today, you know, like, and just, you know, going about his day and then coming up when he feels good. But the cool thing is he's always cool. He's always happy and always ready to engage with his little brother. And that makes everything just flow much better. So the energy flow I've created in my house is one of just being fun and being free, but yet being real. Because again, I don't want anybody to fake how they're feeling. Like, if we have an issue, we can just sit down. Let's all sit down, have the family meeting, and, like, let's talk about it. And another aspect which I implemented was I was listening to OWN Radio. It was on XM radio back in the day. They don't have it anymore. I don't know why. They should bring it back. But they had Oprah was asking, like, all these, you know, moms of successful individuals, you know, like, what they did that, you know, made them to have these successful beings in the world. So we were talking about, like, Beyonce to, like, an artist, some epic artist, I don't remember. I just only remember Beyonce's mom because I love Beyonce. And so I was just, like, all ears.
Yeah.
And it was like 30 moms that were asked the same question. And the answer was, the common thing that they all had was they all ate dinner together every day, like, at the table, like, on a table, like, they all ate dinner together almost every night. And I implemented that, you know, immediately. Like, we didn't have a table back then. Like, we would, like, always eat on the floor. I was like, we're just going to get a table. And and so, you know, for most nights, we'll try and eat together and, like, you know, talk whatever. And most of the time, because they're boys, they're always goofy and always have some jokes. But if there's something serious or something that might occur, you know, we try and, you know, and talk about it a lot. And I think those small, serious things, but a lot of our serious conversations with, like, my oldest son will happen while we drive, not in our table setting. I noticed that. But those small things where you're able to be free because we dealt with talking about small, serious issues creates that fun-filled environment.
Yeah, and I think there's something about just having dinner at the end of the night because, like you said, some days it is like go, go, go. But if you have, it's like that one time during the day where everybody sits down, everybody's hungry, so nobody has anything to do, you know, like nobody has an excuse to not be there. And it just, especially today when we all have like a ton of things going on throughout our day, that it's like this one moment where everybody's slowed down and you can talk and have a conversation and the TV's not on. And like at our house, we do Rose, Bud, and Thorn. So like Rose is tell us like your good part. And then Bud, what are you looking forward to tomorrow? And then Thorn is like, well, what was something that happened today you didn't necessarily like.
That's
And
great.
so we've, and for our 3-year, or well, he's gonna be 4 on Thursday, but for our 4-year-old, for him, it's, what was your favorite part about the day? And so now he comes to the table and he'll ask my husband, what was your favorite part about the day, Dad? And so it's so awesome. And that, like, I don't know, just having that conversation, I feel, or my hope is that even talking about the little things, the everyday things, even if nothing big is happening in their lives right now, that hopefully when they're older, it'll still keep that conversation going to where it's like an expected thing, to where they don't feel awkward finally coming to us to talk about something, or, that's my hope anyway.
No, it will bear fruit for sure.
Okay.
No,
I mean, you have the 16-year-old, so you know.
Yes, and what we would do is we do just three things we're grateful for. We say, and we've been doing that like since I think my son was like three years old, and so it's really changed that dynamic. And I think what's so important, just what you're doing, just being able to reflect in our day. I think that we take our days for granted, and what might go on. I mean, just to be able to breathe and walk and eat. There's so many people who struggle, like when you get sick, for example, like with the cold, and you just remember yourself a week ago and you're like, man, I was living life.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to teach our kids on just being able to reflect on that day, like what happened during that day, and all those small things, to see how it all adds up at the end of the day. And it's to be grateful for it, good or bad, and it was there. So, yeah.
So would you say that focusing on kind of yourself, like your preparation for the day, or your mental wellness to make sure that you're feeling good, would you say that that's like the best thing you've implemented as a parent? Or is there something that you would think that you could think of that was probably like the best thing that you could have done so far as a parent?
Man, so many awesome things that I've done.
You're like, let me just
look, I'm just marrying. My husband was awesome. Like, look, I set myself nice. Just kidding. Look, he was like my biggest challenge ever in life, but now I love him for it. No, I think in relation, kind of, what you said on really getting my mental game right. But the stem of that, I would say that the best thing that happened for me, I can say, as far as being a parent, was when I found out I was pregnant, which, of course, I never thought that, like, for some reason, I was just I didn't know why I didn't think I would ever be pregnant. It was just so weird. But just going from being scared to having a home birth at home, that dynamic changed my entire life.
Yeah.
And so that's where I began mentally preparing myself. To this day, to everything that I do, I understand that everything stems from my mental preparation, and having the physical component to it, and how all that leads throughout everything else in my life, all my relationships. So, and I think because of having that proof, seeing it when, how it really helped me through the pregnancy and the birth, and seeing how I was able to evolve my style of, my mental well-being, in the different stages of my son's life, my different stages with my husband, with our relationship. So that's been key with everything. And so when I hear women, like we'll always hear like, moms, you need to take care of yourself. And I'm always like, when somebody says, I'm like, but how? Tell them how. Yeah. Let's get to that. Because I am a Howie. Jade from she calls me Howie. Because I'm always like, how? Like, give me the steps. I want like 1 through 5, or okay, just give me, just what do we do to do that? And that is my way. And some people, it could just be like, they have to go on that run, or they need to have their coffee with 5 to 10 minutes of complete silence, or they need to listen to music. But I think that consistency matters to make the biggest impact.
Yeah, that's good, because I'm the same way. It's like, oh, well, that sounds nice, but you didn't tell me how to do that.
Yeah.
I need the steps. Yeah. So and then would that be the same thing for your guys' marriage too? Is kind of having your A game, like your self-care?
I think for the best thing that I did with my relationship with him was, I think that was secondary, but the first part was um, being honest with myself. I feel that a lot of times, especially women, and I think we drown ourselves with everything else. The world is busy as it is, but I think that even when we get time to be with ourselves, we're not really honest on what is it we really want. What do I want, from this man? What do I want for myself? What do I want for my family? Like, how does that actually look? And forgiving myself, because when you're honest with yourself, you're going to find areas. And I think that's why a lot of people don't do it, is because you find areas in your life that are not too pretty, that you are kind of ashamed of. And you just was like, I don't really want to look into that. So I'm just not going to do this. Because having that honesty with myself helped me to be the realist I can be with him in our relationship. So if I'm feeling some type of way about something, I don't have to hold it in. I could just tell him about it. Like, it's like, what is he going to do anyways? Like, look, I run this ship, so I'm the captain of the ship. What are you going to do? and most of the time, like 100% of the time, he's supportive. He gives me the insight that I was missing. He walks me down that path that I don't really want to walk through, but only if I was honest with myself to tell him, so that, he can help me that, last step that I can't get to. And what it does is it reflects back on him being better. And then, and might be even reverse where he's coming to me about something. And so that's been the best thing that I've done for myself.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I could probably talk to you about this stuff like all day. I'm like, this is so good. Okay, yeah, but for the sake of time, because I know I already have you a little bit over, but just thank you for sharing your knowledge and your guys' kind of journey. We didn't get into like so deep, and I mean, I'm sure we could go on and on, but just what you did share, it was really helpful. And
awesome.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful for your guys' episode together with that, because like I said, and anybody listening to this definitely has to check it out. I'll have to post it in the show notes because I don't remember exactly the episode that it was, unless you do.
Yeah, I don't either.
Okay.
No.
But I'll have to put that in the show notes, because it definitely, like I said, when I put it together with the love languages, it was just like I don't know, it's just like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. But before I have you go, I wanted to ask you a few questions. And
sure.
I wanted to ask you, what is the most influential book that you've read?
The most influential book that I read is Essentialism by Greg McKeown. And I hope I said his name right, because Sean, my husband, always says like I mess people's last names up so much. The reason why I love the book is it was just the fact of getting to the essential things that we need to do. I think that is so important. I think every mom needs to read. I think it was probably meant for like business people too, like mostly the way it looks to me anyways. But I just think it's important for moms to read it, to understand on we cannot do everything. We cannot have everything. We cannot do everything.
Yeah.
When you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And so, like, what are those essential things that I need to make sacred and I need to perfect and be good at?
Yeah.
Because I think that stress that we have, I think in the book he talks about the definition of priority, that the priorities, the plural came in the 1900s. Initially, it was just singular. Mm-hmm. And so when we have all these, like, I have to do A, B, C, and D, and it's just like, then you just get so overwhelmed, which leads to not being present, with your family, because you're just constantly on the go. Yeah. And so that calmed me all the way down, where I just, I could look, like, I'll give an example. Like yesterday, I went grocery shopping, I meal prep, like I was in the kitchen for 3 hours. I hung out with my kid. But guess what? The laundry is not done yet. Yeah. My bed's not done. There's always going to be something that's not done. Mm-hmm. But as long as I'm really content and happy with myself, and I got to the most essential things that I had to do, and laying in bed and being okay, like, okay, I'm so grateful and happy that I got those things done, I can move on to the next day. Yeah. So that's an awesome book.
Yeah, that does sound like an awesome book. And I feel like we also struggle with kind of the judgment of others, even though they're not even living in our home. Like, it's like, oh, yeah. I need to have the laundry done because this is what the other moms are doing, or I need to do all the meetings. And it's like, but wait, like, you're not going to be married to my husband for like in 20 years. So if I don't pay attention to him, like, I'm worried about what you're thinking, but in 20 years, like, gosh. And then, so I think that, I mean, I'm the same way. And I really struggled with it, because for me, it was like, I don't know how to sit down. Like, so I'm always like, oh, I need to do this, or I feel like if I'm sitting still, I'm wasting time and not doing other things that need to be done, like the laundry and stuff. But when I really thought about it, it was like, well, is the laundry gonna die if I don't do it? Like, or do we have clothes in our drawers? And then it's like, yeah, like my kids still have clothes in their drawers that they can definitely wear. So why am I worried about it? Like, of course it doesn't need to be there for weeks, but like, yeah, if I'm, if my family, the rest of my family is playing outside, but I'm worrying about the laundry that doesn't really, really need to be done, like, why am I doing it?
Yeah. You know what? And there you're so right, because like when we're living at a time where you get on social media and it's like, not only is this like home, stay-at-home mom, like she's doing all these things, like teaching her kids sign language to like
Pinteresting,
Pinterest, like the house is like coordinated, spotless, clean, but also she's got her own business, online business, and she's killing it. Mm-hmm. So you're just sitting there like, oh my gosh. So I mean, honestly, I just had to realize what the most essential thing for me is our health. Yeah. And I got to make sure that my family's health is on point. So that's always first and foremost in my household. Then everything else can kind of stem in after that, Yeah. And I might not get to everything. Some things I'm not good at. I am not good at when it comes to designing and having the cool pillows to match with my sofa and all that. And I'm okay with that, because I when we first moved, and I had this anxiety of like, I don't even want to buy furniture, to be honest, because it's just not my thing. I would rather not. But if we were to talk about things like this or starting a business, I could do that all day. Yeah. So, that's the part which I love about, your show and what you're doing when you're talking about building, a community and us, being together and doing this stuff. So what I did was, I'm good at like internet stuff and website and that type of thing and marketing. Well, my friend, she just loves interior designing. So you know what? We just swapped. Okay, I'm just going to help you in, like really expanding your interior design ideas and business. And you could just help me and go to Home Goods. Right. I want in there. and it's cool. And I'm okay with that,
Yeah, I don't remember if it was something that I had written about, like blogged about or talked with somebody else about, but it was, and we're like getting so off track right now, but it was that just kind of realizing that somebody else's gifts that's what they are. It's like their gifts. Like you don't have to compare yourself to them. Like, so I have friends that, like you said, are awesome at decorating, and I am not like, I sort of can copy things off of Pinterest, but it never turns out. And so I'm just like, I've learned to be cool with that. Like I am these things, and those are what I'm good at. And so like if I need help with that, then if I need help with organizing my closet, and I have a friend that's, that's her thing is organization and keeping things, then like I'm going to ask her. Like I'm not going to put that on me to expect myself to be all these things that I wasn't made to be in the first place. Like
exactly. I think that's the new age moms, man, because I think that whole paradigm is really shifting. I mean, just to wanting to be all and do all. And again, I have no problem with, I think that, we should always try and strive to be our best. Like if it's, with our fitness, really trying to strive to do a little bit better than yesterday. But I mean, not at the expense of my peace of mind, not at the expense of me being present with my family. I'd rather not.
Yeah. So if you could, I guess this kind of ties in, but if you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I guess to empower them, I would say it would be more of like, if I could find a way to have women settle in more in their strength. I think that we really underestimate, and I say that because I'm also speaking to myself as I say this, that we underestimate our strength and what we really can do. And I know we have all these examples of wonderful, incredible women that are doing all these amazing things, but to cultivate that strength that's within us, and that's when I mean settle into our strength. And meaning, really digging into our vulnerability as women. I think that's like one of our biggest powers, as well as our grace. We're so graceful, and we can be on the phone while our baby's tagging our leg, and cooking at the same time, but able to do it gracefully. I mean, of course, they do talk about multitasking, but we're not going to talk about this. But with grace, and also I feel that women too. I think because we're so feminine, that sometimes we don't want to tap into that beast mode, meaning that just getting to be like a Viking warrior and like just go hard in whatever that might be. And, I feel like if we're able to tap into more of those little aspects, and a way that I found that's been working for me was just being able to sit by myself. If it's 5-10 minutes to dig in and allowing these feelings, these emotions to come out, however they might be. Sometimes I might want to be that Viking warrior if I have a business, a roadblock that's happening in my head. So I imagine being like a Viking warrior while I'm working out. So, just to get myself in a state of, like to crush it when I get, to sit down in my business, where because some roadblocks we just want to shy away from. We want to walk around it instead of just going through it. And I think as women, sometimes we feel like, oh, I'm just too ladylike for that. Like, no, you can just put it on. Especially, I think most women listening have kind of tapped into that when they were giving birth, like that roar that came out of them, like yelling. They were just, they were extra aggressive for no reason, but it's because it's in you already, so all those little aspects, being able to apply them in life more often, as opposed to taking that silent ways that we tend to do at times, where we don't want to speak how we feel as much, or we just kind of let it build in, just, I guess, being more graceful with everything.
Yeah. I think that's really hard, because especially I think that there's a lot of things that go into that. Like you said, we see like other women doing, awesome, amazing things, but we always, I feel like, struggle with assuming that, oh, well, like that's them, I'm not them, I couldn't possibly do something like that. Or like we forget, like, just like you said, I haven't thought about, having given birth to my children recently, but thinking about it, it's like, yeah, like if we have one moment in our life, if we have one moment in our life to be proud of, to realize that we're really strong, it's that like, hey, you just pushed like a huge kid out of, you know, your body, and that, and so, and to realize that, and, yeah, I think that that's really good just to remind yourself.
Look, not only do I remind myself, I remind my husband he's like, because I'm always like, I can't do it. I'm like, heck yeah, I can. Like, I gave birth to a baby at our house. Okay. Like,
what did you do?
I can do it. Like, I totally can do this. And I think we, you know, and that part I do understand of when women do that, of comparing to others and like, yeah, that was them and stuff like that. But that's that part where I'm saying, like, that mental preparation, having that, whatever route that we take, if it's having that prayer of to be by yourself every single day, making that consistent, that helps to bring it all out, I believe. Yeah. Because through that silent, when you allow to have, you know, God to speak to you, then you see it coming out in your life. Because, you know, it's usually like in a whisper of like, okay, that was them, but it's like, okay, what do I need to do? And asking the right questions. I think Sean talks a lot about that in his episodes of being able to ask the right questions. Because a lot of times we're not even asking a question, you know, like if it's a problem that I'm dealing with, you know, what is this problem here to teach me? You know, what are the next steps that I need to take? You know, what kind of woman do I really want to be? Can you show me an example? You know, I think that we're not even asking.
Yeah, that's true. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty true.
Yeah, that's true.
And I want to ask you more about that, but then we'd be here for like another hour. We'll have to do like a part 2.
Oh gosh.
So if you could tell your younger self one thing, assuming that she would listen, because I can't say that I would, but I really love this question. So what would you tell your younger self?
Honestly, like out of everything, that was like the hardest, most like strange question.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Honest, like, yeah, sure. Honestly, like when I think of that question and I look back at my entire life, you know, my 35 years of being alive, like only thing that I can actually say to her is, you know, just be more patient. Just, it's coming, just being patient. And because when I look at every word I've said, every step that I've taken, every decision that I've made has led me to this particular moment, and I would not take none of it back at all. And so it's really hard, and I'm grateful. I'm so grateful for all of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so the only thing that I can think of is just, you know, just being patient, just a little bit longer. It's okay. You know, it's just okay. Maybe the words, it's okay, you know, because I know how hard we're the toughest when it comes to ourselves. And I know how hard that, you know, I can be to myself, and it's like, it's okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that is probably like the most, you would think the most simplest advice, but it's something that like, you're like, yeah, like I should have totally told myself that.
As if. Because, you know, we tend to be, I know for me, you know, especially when faced with a problem, like I want to find the solution then. So I want to go through all the possibilities.
Right.
I'm not going to rest, you know, instead of sometimes it's just allowing for the universe to just work. Like, let's see, this has to happen anyways. So just chill out for a minute.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that episode. If you could, it would mean the world to me for you to shoot over to iTunes really quickly and leave a rating or a review for the Today's Eden podcast. Also want to make sure that you guys are checking out the Today's Eden Tribe Facebook group. You can go to todayseden.com and go to the top menu bar, click Today's Eden Tribe, and there you can join our Facebook group where we kind of hang out and talk about real stuff just like we do on here, but with each other. Make sure you go and check out the show notes for this episode at todayseden.com/podcast/023. I have the links there for the things that we talked about in this episode, like Tony Robbins' 6 core human needs, his program Love and Passion, Sean's book, and a link to their podcast. So make sure you check that out. The quote I want to leave with you today is, in every disagreement in marriage, remember this one important truth. My spouse is my partner, not my enemy. We will either win together or we'll lose together. By Dave Willis.